Anyone who goes down new paths must expect to encounter the unknown. From our base in Basel, we realize projects around the world and define what media architectures are and can be. Our clients seek the extraordinary. This ambition has impelled us to elevate agility to a universal principle of our studio. We not only conceive, we also design and plan, build and maintain. That's how we make visions tangible. Uniqueness demands wholehearted commitment. As creative engineers, we tinker around, test, reject. We continue to develop and discuss new ideas. Because it is exactly the fusion of concept, design, and technology that brings to life the magical moments so characteristic for our work.
Okay, hello guys, hello to Switzerland, welcome Valentin SPIESS of iart and LUKAS FITZE of iart. Thank you so much for participating in the very first session of season 2 of the Yes Lounge. We had an incredible season 1 where, you know, we didn't know what was coming towards us. We just created this format within the first lockdown in Germany, and we did that so our students would still be in contact with amazing architects and amazing engineers and amazing artists and you know, barkeepers and whatsoever. And I think you've seen a few sessions and it was amazing what happened. And I really believe in the fact that, you know, it's interesting to talk to people that you met before, that you worked with before, and that's why you are here. LUKAS and I have been friends from New York for many, many years, a Swiss man and a German girl. And you introduced me to Valentin, your boss, 3 years ago during the Armory show that you did with IYY and Herzog de Meuron, and it was called Hansel and Gretel. Maybe we start... I introduced myself by saying how I met the two of you. LUKAS, an old friend, Valentin, thank God, a new friend. So Valentin and LUKAS, do you want to talk about how you guys met?
Yes, I don't know. Do you want to tell you part of the story or should I start?
No, I'm really curious to hear your version.
Yeah, I mean, I hope It's not a version, it's a fact. I mean, I'm from Basel, so born and raised in Basel, but I left Basel over 25 years ago and went to New York, first to Zurich, and heard about iart relatively late. I heard about iart. That's a little bit embarrassing. Emmanuel Chris told me that he's doing a competition, and it was an evening before Christmas, and he was drawing the facade, the light freeze facade on a napkin, and told my girlfriend and to me, you know, how amazing this is going to be. That's when I realized what iart was, relatively late, I have to admit. And then my mother celebrated her 80th birthday and threw a party at the Kunstmuseum Bistro, where she invited a lot of people, including Valentine's cousin, if I'm not wrong.
No, yes, it's correct.
Okay, and then I chatted with your cousin and with her husband, and they thought I and my girlfriend Onne should meet you, which happened a few weeks later, and I guess rest is history.
So now, Valentine, we want to hear your story.
So maybe one thing I want to add, my mother is very proud of that, and she's going around town and is telling everybody that she's responsible, that we met and that I work at iart.
Well, moms are good for many things. So Valentine, was your mom involved too?
Yeah, more or less, because she keeps the family together. Yes. So she was in touch with Susanna, who is my cousin, and so she's very close with her, and so that's actually really how it happened. That someday I got. She actually was calling me and asking, is it okay when Lukas is visiting us at Flugstock, where he actually is now? And then we had a lunch together, I think.
Yes.
And this was our first meeting.
Yes.
That's so great. And we met at this fascinating show, Hansel and Gretel, at the Armory. And I had a guest professorship at City College, and I just came back into town, and Lukas said, you have VIP cards, you need to show, you need to meet Valentine. And that's how we met. How did you get in touch with IYY and Herzogenaurach? How did they find you? Super amazing project, and the first one that I realized you're doing, because I spent so many years in the States, and I know that you worked with my friend Shirin from Atelier Brückner, but that was the first thing that I saw by you, and I was mesmerized. So how did this project start?
Yes, I think I should start at the point where Louis Gisler was meeting or was calling me. Actually, you could show it, Lukas. There is a building just around the corner here where Herzogenaurach has their second office. They have their headquarters in the inner city of Basel, and there is their second place where actually I think 50 people are working, and there's also their archive and model making facilities. And so Louis Gisler is in charge of digital crafts and at Herzogenaurach, and he was in touch with Pierre and Jacques, who had the idea to make an art project at Armory together. They're old friends from the Olympic Stadium many years ago in Beijing. And so, that's Louis called me and said, hey, are you interested? Jacques and Pierre and IYY want to do an art project at Armory. Would you like to join a meeting to find an idea? How could we approach this, and so on? And so that was the starting point. So Louis was, we were meeting with Louis and some other people, and then we were figuring out how could we do actually the initial idea of having this huge space as a huge surveillance area, visible by traces you throw on the floor, by a digital shadow on the floor. And I mean, this was the starting point. Some weeks later, we already had a first installation in our lab. Actually, also at Flugstock, we have a huge facility, a stage where we can do mock-ups and so on. And then we started doing the first mock-up. Then there was the second mock-up in Berlin and so on. So then this was kind of evolving. We are quite, how can I say that? There's a certain close link with Herzog and Dömerer and the common understanding of how we can collaborate, and this makes work quite easy because, you know, there's a certain groove, there's a certain set of methods we share, and it's always fun to work with them.
So Lukas and Valentin, we clearly gonna show a video because you provided us with a lot of material, and we're gonna show the video of Hansel and Gretel so that people will understand what it was. I have my next question. Basically, I mean, you're an engineer, mm-hmm. and I read that you started working with artists like Pippi Lotharist and so on. You want to tell us something about your beginning? I mean, basically, you have an education of a nerd. The nerds who are super hot right now, like we're all watching these shows where nerds are building, you know, robots out of toasters and bread cutting machines. One of my favorite shows, anyhow. So yeah, so you're an electrical engineer. Mm-hmm. Now you're completely in the field of media art and so on. How did that start? I mean, it's fascinating.
Yes, it's also for me actually. I was actually born into this world. My brother is a painter, an artist, and he's 10 years older than me, and he was actually my link or my bridge to the art world here in Basel, and especially to the media art world. When I was a teenager, actually, I was quite young, and I was, walking behind him to these events, and I met a lot of people. And as you said, you know, I had some, in the early days already, some technical skills. So there were a lot of artists asking me, hey, could you help me? I have troubles with, you know, doing interactive iron. A lady was... Muda Matis was asking me to help her to do a performance with an iron as an interface, as a media interface, and things like that. So that was the starting point. So I was doing a lot of things with artists as a teenager, as a hobby, and this was this was the point when I entered this art world, and I had I was very lucky that I could join this group called VIA, which was actually the first. How do you say it? The first class of the audiovisuelle Medien, mm-hmm. Oder Medienkunstklasse von der Hochschule der Künste here in Basel. And these guys
at the University of Basel.
Exactly, and these guys were founding an organization called VIA. Because at these days, you know, it was very expensive to have your own infrastructure, like a video camera. A professional video camera was very expensive. You know, editing suite was not easy to have. So these guys gathered together and invested into a studio. And I was there. I was hanging around there as a teenager after school, and was tweaking, you know, things with them. And this was the starting point, and this was kind of totally natural, you know, to get into that. And it was really fun because, you know, compared to the, let's say, more scientific or engineering driven problems, you deal with visions, with ideas, and you have to find a way how to make it happen, how to make it real, how to make it physical. And this was always my passion. How can we do, you know, someone has a crazy idea. Could we do a dancing sofa? Okay, let's try, you know. And so this was always the starting point.
You know Rebecca Horn?
Yes. Yeah.
I think that God meant very well with you guys. And also your, we say, Entdecker and Erfindergeist, and you know, maybe that's a word that we will not translate, but I think that, you know, coming from electrical engineering towards art and then doing what you're doing is really fascinating. And
did you know when you were studying that you want to go into this direction? Was that clear? Or did you think at some point you're going to work, I don't know, in a regular company or in a corporate environment?
Yeah, I mean, I was really, I'm still very curious in understanding things. So this was always my motivation, you know, to learn about technology, to learn about science and all that, because I was curious to understand how things are working. And this was actually my motivation after, what was it, more or less 2 years of studying. I was totally upset by this, because then I realized that a lot of people working in this field are totally idiots. And so I left the university. I went to New York at this point, because I thought it's totally stupid. You know, these guys are really, I don't want to be in touch with some of these people. And at some point after this New York trip, I realized that I'm not doing it for them. It's actually, I'm doing it for me, and I want to be a real professional engineer.
That's why it's called iart. Huh? That's why it's called iart.
Yes.
Now I understand.
No, but I think that even
this was really the thing. And then I said, okay, let's do it. Let's do the degree. And so I did it. And then I started to work in the industry first, because I had a very good, how do you say that in English? Experte. An experte for my diploma. And he hired me, and I liked him. He was also a very crazy engineer. And I worked for him for a couple of years till I started my own company.
So it was like a PhD dad or a master.
Godfather kind of thing.
Yeah, like
genau.
Who helped you doing your thesis. And
exactly.
It's also a very, because I'm so glad that Lukas is joining us too, because that, you know, that's what brought us together. And Lukas also has a history working for a friend of ours, Conny Koch, and then supporting the Swiss Embassy with a lot of art projects. And I'm very happy for the two of you that you guys actually bumped into each other, got introduced, and that now Lukas is your New York ambassador, even if going back to New York might be a challenge. We were just discussing that today, because I have American and Canadian co-workers, and they all want to go home for Christmas, and we were just doing the math about how long you have to stay in quarantine and how safe it is and so on. But that's just life right now. There will be a question, Valentine, that I'm going to address to you again in the end. But for now, what projects are you working on right now? I mean, I got a whole list, but I think maybe tell us a few things that really, you know, tickle you, that bring you, that challenge you, that push iart into the next. We're always talking about digitalization 4.0, and I'm really hopeful it's even happening in Germany at one point, because we're the slowest of all countries in the world. But what's happening in Switzerland, what's happening in all your branches all over the world? Tell us something about that.
I mean, there are two main areas we are currently active in, and one is let's say the media architecture field, where it's mainly goes direction of the media facades. And there we have currently a project again with Herzog & de Meuron, M+ in Hong Kong, the new museum for contemporary art. And we have been in charge of the facade, the media facade, which is more or less finished now. And we hope to do the commissioning soon. And this was a really nice project, but also very challenging from very different point of views. It's really huge. It's a dramatic scale. It's a 70 by 90 meters facade.
Wow.
And and there are a lot of challenges related to that, but it's also a very powerful tool, I think, especially for the city of Hong Kong. This facade will be very, very visible and will be a kind of a platform, because the museum itself thinks or this facade as an outdoor gallery. So it's not a, you know, it's not just a commercial channel to promote events. It's really a gallery where artists' works are commissioned for, especially for this facade, and will be shown for the, let's say, the public. Mm-hmm. And this is also a direction we are very interested in, to use facades as a platform, in collaboration with the owners, in collaboration with, in this case, with the curators of the museum, to give it, to generate something beyond just having this kind of texture on a facade, going in the direction of really making it a place, making it a platform for collaboration, a platform for interaction. And that's really powerful. And that's actually, I'm really looking forward to make it happen there. You know, the current situation is not so easy. We don't know what actually happens. Will the museum be opened next year? Yes or no, under which conditions, and so on. So it's not so easy, but I think it's also a chance for Hong Kong and for the city to have this kind of platform for contemporary art in this city. And yeah, we cross fingers that it will be opened, and that it will be an interesting platform for exchange.
I'm absolutely hopeful that it will be open. I mean, you know, the economy there has recovered mostly, and the question will be, can you install it? Can you go there? But I think, you know, let's just say we have to be patient for another 2 to 4 months. Always thinking very positively. A quick question to Lukas. You told me a few days ago that you're going back. I mean, you're working from Switzerland right now, and you can, you know, still do all the interaction with all the architects. I think you're mostly talking to artists and architects in New York. What is your plan when you're going back in November? What is your goal? What are you going to do for iMedia, considering that we might have, you know, we might not be back in full business until February, March, whatever. So
that's exactly the question. When will the US or New York will be back? And to explain, you know, I came back to Basel in mid-July, so I experienced the whole lockdown situation in New York, and which was intense, which sometimes I compare it with 9/11, even though it was completely different, but it was as intense. And in May, people were still optimistic, and our clients and partners were still communicating, and then it somehow stopped. And then we realized that I'm more useful here in Basel, because I started to I worked on the European market sitting in Brooklyn in my home, which meant that I got up at 4 a.m. in order to talk to architects in Stuttgart, let's say. So I came in July and worked here now, and was planning to leave mid-September. And I realized again that nothing happened in New York, because then we have the protests, and then we had fires, and then we had Trump, and now everybody says, let's wait what's happening on November 3rd. So I really focused on the European market, and keep trying every week. I test and see what's happening in New York, and I'm trying to reach out. And right now there's some light in the tunnel, that some of the clients who completely not disappeared, but were not able to talk to me, are now making there's some signs of dialogue again.
And so, Valentin, sorry for interrupting, but I think that the role of art and media art and art in general is something that has been royally challenged in the last few months, because, our art, let's just say, it's probably considered one of the things that are not that much needed right now, but clearly, and a lot of people have been talking about it and writing about it, art is needed more than ever, but the budgets have been frozen and so on. And I think that you as a company, iart, or anybody who is interested and fascinated by the arts, has to fight even harder. And I think that is really the challenge. And I have two more questions left for you. We usually do this format. We do an interview for about half an hour, and then we want to make sure that we can show you work. Valentine, what are your predictions for the future for your kind of media art? Do you think anything besides from the fact that we don't know how we can do projects internationally, has Corona brought more insight to the art you do? Did anything change?
I mean, what totally has changed is the way of how we work. I think when it comes to the relevance of what we are doing, I think I'm totally convinced that this is super relevant, and it's also well understood by, let's say, architects and owners and you know, people involved, that to make places attractive and to make them even being a communication platform is super relevant. And all the projects we are doing now are getting even stronger because of that. I mean, there is some things are coming up now, I think, which is super, super nice, is also this aspect of, you know, sustainability, which is now a very big topic. So we're gonna realize beginning or next year, we're gonna realize the first zero energy media facade, which is actually a hybrid between organic photovoltaic facade and the media facade, LED based media facade in one, which generates or harvests the energy during the day, which is needed for running the facade at daytime and at nighttime. So the incorporation of organic photovoltaic, which is an absolutely new technology, is now something we're pushing forward, and it's well accepted by the clients because they say, okay, this is it's a real issue, you know, that all these media facades need energy. How can we deal with that? And our answer is we incorporate photovoltaic elements into the facade, which generates the energy or harvests the energy which is needed. I
have a project for you in Munich. Yoo-hoo! But keep
perfect. And you know, this is something which is now possible, and it's not cheap. I mean, in this case, it's really innovative. So we are early adopters of this technology, and yeah, but the client wants to do it now, and I would say 1 year before, yeah, maybe not, maybe, you know, it's very expensive, should we do it or not? I mean, this happens now, and this is a strong statement that the companies who are still on track, let's say commercially, they spend the money also for these now kind of new directions, for new innovations. And so it's both, you know, on one hand, it's a big crisis. Some projects are gone, some projects are totally dead, other projects are even, you know, getting bigger and more interesting based on what's going on. And I think so it's both, you know. I think there's a strong understanding that things have to change, and that we have to build the future now, on one hand. And on the other hand, yeah, some people are really, yeah, they have no chance to do anything because, you know, everything is blocked. So it's both. And we are, to be honest, we are happy working out of Switzerland. We have some Swiss clients. We finalized the project for Schindler, the elevator company, which is actually very successful on one hand. And you know, the pharma industry here in Switzerland is also successful, you know, driven by the crisis, but not only. And yeah, so we are lucky that we work out of Switzerland, which is affected. There are real troubles here, but it's not as worse as in other countries.
I think what's important from that is that everybody and every profession is affected differently. And, you know, some of them, very few people will come out as people that actually had more business to do, especially in the pharma and medical business. But also that is, you know, some businesses thrive and some others don't. The building industry also in Germany is still quite stable because, you know, you're in Munich, and the prices don't go because now everybody is afraid of inflation. Everybody's putting their money in we call it concrete gold. So yeah, we're lucky that way, but also I see a lot of people in other professions, you know, not doing so well. And that's just the Corona times. We have an unofficial lockdown again. And we have 2 months before Christmas. The weather won't get better, which also will affect all of our moods and so on. And the patience is running thin. So Corona fatigue is now a real thing. I mean, everybody expected it, but I think now it's just really there. So, but let's just say, hopefully these talks will survive just like us, the Corona time. And I think interesting about this time is just like the 9/11 time that Lukas mentioned, it's an accelerator for change. And that might be sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. But usually it makes everybody think, and everybody who's halfway creative or like you, an engineer and a creative person, we come up with new solutions and we push harder. And you mentioned sustainability. Everybody now is aware of that, you know, that it was so amazing to see the blue skies finally again and have no car noise and all of that, even if it's already forgotten again. But back to iart. I mean, I admire you guys' work. I think it's really amazing. I think it will become more and more important, me being an architect, to also see the building as an interface, a smart interface, but also an interface that can actually store or reuse energy, that can give you messages like you did with another Herzog Dämmerer museum. I think you're doing amazing stuff. You know, thinking back of the last few months, what would be your biggest wish? If you could have a wish, where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve in the next, let's say, 50 years of your career? What would you want to do?
50? 15 or 50?
Of course, darling, we all gonna get a microchip and, you know. Valentine will give us one, so I'm not worried.
Yes. You know, there are two answers to this question. I would say one is, let's say, the professional perspective. From the professional perspective, I would say we are currently working we are in a change process at iart, and we go in the direction of kollegiale Führung. There's a German word for it. The approach we do, which means my role will also change in the company, and which I really like. That I think after the years of being mainly a manager, I would really like to go back to the roots and have more time for let's say, being creative. And so that's also one thing we are doing now, that the company is kind of evolving. And the funny thing is, it's not about being more efficient or being, you know, these kind of, let's say, more management oriented things. It's about being more robust as an organization. So the goal is to build I call it an atelier, which is really robust in his structure, which can absorb problems, which can absorb crisis, and so on. That's actually the idea of building an infrastructure, or building also a community, which is really robust in the way this organization works. And that's one of my goals for the coming years. And which gives me
Can I ask a super quick question in between?
Yes.
Artificial intelligence, how much are you involved in that part? Come on, spill the beans.
Yes, I mean, artificial intelligence, it's one field we are active in as a part of a let's say, an even broader strategy. and there it goes in the direction of using artificial intelligence in the field of making of things smarter, which is something we already do. It's funny because we had an internal discussion about artificial intelligence and what will be the big things. And I did a project, media facade in Graz in 2002.
Are we talking the hands?
Yeah.
We're talking, you have the slides too. It's this.
Yes, it's Graz. And this was actually the first media facade which was based on artificial intelligence in 2002.
Is it the friendly alien? The hands?
No. It was an art project actually from the artist is Muda Mattis.
Oh yeah, I know her. Yeah.
And the artwork is called "Wenn ein Haus träumt, dann schläft es nicht." It's the Schauspielhaus of Graz, the city of Graz, and the idea was based on sensor inputs, sensors, mainly movement sensors, installed in different areas of the building, on the stage, in the director's office, on rehearsal spaces, in the lobby, and so on. We were calculating a mood of this building. So this artificial intelligence was generating a mood out of this sensor data, which was then expressed as animations, light animations on the facade. So what actually happened is that when you pass by, you can read what's going on inside based on the animations. You can see that the building is calm, so probably there's no play, or there is nothing happen because it's closed, the theater, or you could even see, someone is probably there because some of the lights are active in some way. Or you could see, okay, it's before the show, everyone is nervous and everything is, so it was kind of readable what's going on. And the idea of having this kind of membrane talking to the city was driven. And this was actually the first project where we used the neural network in a very simple way, actually, this time. But yeah, so this was the starting point for us working with AI a very long time ago as a tool. And that's still our approach. AI is a tool, like other tools. And
the same way, they're not taking over, it's in every discussion that you have in conferences all over the world. Let's just talk like, half a year ago where we were all over the place. People always think that the thing is going to take over, and it's not going to take over.
No, it's a tool. It's a tool which we use in different concepts. Now, for example, we are doing a show I can't tell you more, it's still confidential, about a big musician, and there the visitor will be part of the show, and his face will be captured and how do you say, applied to some of the actors playing in the space, virtual actors. So we also use artificial intelligence as a tool, and so on. So there are different applications. We're currently working on a concept for guidance inside buildings, especially museums, but not only.
Light system.
Kind of light system, but also kind of delivering context as a smart guide. And this is also something where we use expert systems based on AI and so on. So there are different fields. AI for us is a tool, and we use it, and it's powerful, but not more than that, I would say. And when people come and say, AI, why do you use that? My personal approach to this is I want to be able to understand and to learn about AI to judge myself, and not being related to so-called experts telling me what's possible. So for me, it's totally obvious to use it and to understand how it works and understand the risks related to it, instead of,
I know, and I think that's a great approach. I remember when I came to the States, 1994, everybody in Germany was still afraid, like the internet and the email and all these dangerous things that are going to happen and change architecture and the world around, and basically rather than embracing it and saying, let me understand the thing and then use it for the better in the world, people shut down. But that's true with every innovation. And right now, I think so much innovation is happening. I mean, I had so many talks. I think I had 28 talks in season 1.
Yeah.
And everybody's working on stuff. Everybody's thinking. Everybody's branching out, and it's just happening while we are now at home again. So, Lukas,
but just one thing to add. You know, what's funny when it comes to our work is that the most powerful impact we have in the area of integration. You know, so when it comes to building processes, how you build things and how you deal with integration of, let's say, digital media into architecture and so on, there we have the biggest impact, which is funny because it's really old. You know, how do you embed LEDs into a brickstone, or how do you layer up something into a glass facade and so on? So this kind of, let's call it pragmatic engineering problems. And there is a huge chance of innovation, because let's say the last 20 years, more or less nothing happened. You know, we built houses how we did it 20 years ago. Was not a big innovation. And now I think there's a lot of things we can do now. Yes, it's a risk. It's always kind of, because it has to last another 50 years and so on. Okay, but I think there's a big chance, because we have now the tools, we have the simulation tools to engineer these things, and there I see a dramatic improvement in what is possible and not, So I think this is an area, our projects. It's about integration. It's about the symbiotic relationship between digital media and architecture, and that's actually where it happens. It's not the AI part. This is also relevant, sure, but where it really happens is where it comes together, where it gets physical. And this is really funny, because in this area there's a huge potential of innovation.
And I think you just described it so beautifully about what iart is about. And Lukas, even if we didn't question you too much, thank you so much for sharing the view from iart's office and for getting us together, because I think for me it has always been about networking and working with people that you actually like and that inspire you. And man, this has been a super inspiring talk. And I'm super grateful. We will show a lot of your work and make sure that our viewers don't just sit there thinking, that was an interesting talk, but what were they talking about? We will confront them with images and movies and bring that across. So, Lukas, do you wanna say goodbye to the crowd in true Swiss fashion?
I don't know what the true Swiss is saying anymore, because I'm an expat almost here. But actually, I have to say, the last 4 months were amazing, because even I left this country for such a long time ago. I must say, I feel still fully integrated, and I'm as happy here in Switzerland as I'm happy in New York. Hopefully, it's getting better over there. But so,
hopefully it will get better in the whole world, and maybe overnight, like it did with SARS and MERS and whatever. We will see. It was
Ruth, are you planning to come to New York soon?
It's like the third flight that I didn't take, and I already have one for Christmas again. So yes, I'm planning all the time, and then one of the airlines has a different opinion and tells me it's not possible, but you can be reimbursed at one point. So yeah, I'm always making plans, because clearly, I have an office there, and I have my friends there. And we've known each other since '94. So yes, I have such a huge longing. I'm homesick for New York like crazy, and let's just see what happens. So my plan would be Christmas, but we will just see what works.
That's right. Okay, let us know when you're there.
Of course, you will know first. So Valentine and Lukas, thank you so much for our discussion. please stay online, even if we shut down the recording now, and we're going to do a little feedback round and decide what we're going to integrate quickly into the presentation. Many kisses to Switzerland.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Ciao.
Oh.